the greatest mistake you can make is not taking action, is being paralyzed by the fear.
That's correct. The worst thing you can do is ignore it. Ignore the IRS, they'll go away. Ignore the Franchise Tax Board in California, they'll go away. Nothing can be further from the truth. What you need to know, because we've been doing tax returns for the state back from the 90s in the last year or so, because the state has gotten very aggressive on their collection of all taxes. And what one needs to know is first that the IRS collection statute for back taxes is 10 years. The state collection statute for back taxes is 20 years. And by the way, failure to file, there's actually no statute, so you need to be real careful of that kind of thing. There are many, many ways that we could solve your tax problem. People think that income taxes are not dischargeable in bankruptcy. We have a bankruptcy attorney on staff. There's nothing can be further from the truth. In many circumstances, income taxes can be discharged in bankruptcy, but the tax returns need to be filed first.
Right.
No file, no bankruptcy.
Right.
You know, there's just more than one. The point, Brian, is there's more than one way to skin this cat, and we've been doing this for such a long time. I've been doing this over 25 years. There are tax attorneys in my office that have been doing it over 20. Everybody is super qualified, and we're able to solve the problem. Let me turn the question around and ask you one.
Sure.
You've dealt with us here at the Tax Resolution Institute.
I have.
Why is it that you procrastinated? And if you'd like to share your situation, tell us why you waited to solve your tax problem.
Because I'm a bad person. That's important to point out. I'm not a bad person. And people who find themselves in these circumstances, they're not, you're not a bad person. But I can tell you in my personal experience, 1 year goes by and you don't file. And then another year goes by and you don't file. And actually you sort of because you haven't heard, because you think, okay, well, I haven't heard anything yet, and nobody's knocked on my door yet, nobody's even called me yet, that I'll get around to this. And I think that what happens is, you do enough of thinking, I'll get around to this, and then they get around to you. and you have no choice at that point but to make contact. And for me, Peter, my greatest question, I did a lot of research. And I asked a lot of friends a lot of questions before I came to the Tax Resolution Institute. And the most important thing for me was that, as I indicated earlier, when I came to the Tax Resolution Institute, I was very afraid. I mean, I really was afraid. I was receiving notices, and I was very afraid, and I didn't know what to do. But I knew I couldn't do it on my own. I knew I couldn't pick up the phone and call Sacramento. I knew I couldn't pick up the phone and call the IRS. I mean, I guess I've done some stupid things in my life, but that would probably be the dumbest thing, right? To call them up and say, "Hi, it's Brian. Help me figure this out." Oh, they say, "Oh, we've been waiting for you."
Yeah, that usually doesn't work out very well.
Right. So immediately, you guys put me at ease. We filed the returns that were unfiled, and then you sort of begin to sort of chip away at what the problem is, and and I guess the best way to say it is, with knowledge comes a little bit of serenity. When you sort of know where you're at with this situation, you begin to feel more at ease, and then your team goes to work on what the issues are. And a lot of people think, I'll just avoid this and I won't tackle this problem. And I can say from my personal experience that the smartest thing I ever did was to contact the Tax Resolution Institute and to deal with this problem, because you can kind of compartmentalize and you can put it away in a corner of your mind and think, okay, this will work out. I'll work this out, when and if. But when I got in touch with your team and I sat down with you folks, you put me at ease. You dealt with some of the issues, front burner issues, and then you go back and you deal with with previous returns and previous years. And I think that it's very important for folks to understand that it's not it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. But you have to know what you're dealing with. You have to know with the problem. You have to know what the problem is you're dealing with. And I have to be honest with you. When I contacted you, Peter, and folks will want to know about this, I was under the impression, and I really don't know if it's true, if the IRS is becoming more friendly or less friendly to deal with. I had heard from folks, well, the IRS, they're not going to be so lenient in future years. And I don't know if that's a real fear. Is the IRS getting tougher? Is Sacramento getting tougher? Or are they just sort of as tough as they always were?
You know, Brian, they're pretty much as tough as they always were. If on the IRS side, if you're working with them, and you're working with a professional, they typically give us a little bit of leeway. If it's with what I call a live revenue officer, a local revenue officer, we know many of them because we've been doing this for so long.
Right, you call them and they know who you are.
That's correct. Mm-hmm. As far as the Franchise Tax Board, the California taxing authorities are concerned, they're actually a little more aggressive than the IRS. But the fact of the matter is that, again, if you're working with them, unless you get this rogue agent, this 10%, on one end and 10% on the other end.
And they're not that common, are they?
Well, it's 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10.
10%, are going to be. I mean, I've had agents who have threatened to seize leased cars. And, I hate to put it this way, but I started laughing. I said, when did the IRS get into the leased car business? Because what is he going to do with the leased car? Park it in the IRS parking lot?
Right.
It made no sense. But I understand this revenue officer is no longer with the service, although they don't talk about that very often. But I know some of the people that he worked with, and they let the cat out of the bag. Anyway, the point is that you do get this 10% on one end, really, really difficult, and you do get the 10% on the other end, kind of, sort of easy. But mostly they're cooperative, and the way we approach it is we're both trying to do the same thing.